Hello. Thank you guys for being here today and for holding out till the end. We so appreciate it. Several weeks ago, when I was asked to speak, I'm not going to lie, I had a temporary moment of panic that manifested itself into my legs and shaky hands. I thought, who am I to speak about the proposed application changes to IDD waiver? What do I have to say of value that would call each of you here today to put your concerns into action, to cause positive policy change? Then I remembered what my friend Kevin Smith taught me about advocating for the rights of people with developmental disabilities. No decision should ever be made about the lives of people with developmental disabilities without each of us here standing in the gap. As Kevin and so many others say frequently, nothing about us without us. So today I come before you as a mom of a 10-year-old daughter named Riley, who is enrolled in our state's IDD waiver program. I stand before you today and say, for too long, we have allowed others to determine how we are allowed to live with our loved ones. For too long, we've allowed others to define people with developmental disabilities as a budgetary amount, an IPP, an algorithm of care that no one can seem to explain to us. For too long, people with disabilities have been seen as an ICD-9 billing code, black letters on a piece of white paper. For too long, lobbying groups have sought to discredit us when we come here and advocate for those we love. I could stand here and tell you in great detail how these sweeping proposed changes will affect every single person currently receiving and waiting for services through IDD waiver. If you've had the time in all of our free time, right, to read the 194-page application or you followed the West Virginia Developmental Disabilities Council's comments, you have an idea of how this will change life as we know it for people with developmental disabilities, how these proposed changes will impact every day of our life, how we personally can live with our daughter Riley. But since you're here today, I think you already understand what these proposed changes mean. Instead, with the knowledge that also in our attendance today, we have great legislative members, we have agencies here, and we have state program people and the media, I want to use my time to talk about what others often do not. West Virginia per capita has the most residents living daily with disabilities. West Virginia's Title XIX IDD waiver currently serves a little over 4,600 people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. 1,025 people in our state are deemed eligible for IDD waiver, but they currently sit on a waiting list. To my knowledge, West Virginia DHHR has not asked our legislature or the governor for additional money for this program for years. What you also don't often hear is that our state's waiver program is one of, if not the most stringent in regards to enrollment eligibility criteria. If you qualify, you need these services. Our state pays 25% into this program and the federal government pays 75%. And while it's true our IDD waiver program is more robust than other states, I'm proud to say that this is in large part due to the fact that our state recognizes our culture of caring for our own. And frankly, they realize that it costs so much less to provide supports and services through IDD waiver than through an archaic, institutionalized setting. The model of care that's currently in place was developed to meet the diverse needs of people throughout our state with developmental disabilities. Because of additional options now offered over just the last 5 years, enrolled participants with more comprehensive needs like our daughter Riley can receive nursing services through Medicaid instead of waiver. They can utilize participant-directed services at a cost savings to the state. Let me say that again, because nobody else talks about that. A cost savings to the state. In Riley's case alone, we cut her annual IDD waiver budget by several tens of thousands of dollars, all without compromising on her safety and care and while maintaining all the exact same level of supports and services. And if I may be so bold to say to DHHR, I'm still waiting on my thank you card. You have my address. Put that sucker in the mail. Unfortunately, it's very rare for these facts to be discussed. The success that we and many others have achieved by finding creative, cost-effective solutions without compromising on services and supports is rarely discussed in large forums. The reason I mention this is to remind everyone here today that if you give people with disabilities options, work with them rather than against them, they can and they will find individualized solutions without compromising their safety, inclusion, health, or independence. People with disabilities and their families often feel very left out of these discussions. They feel ignored, unheard when changes are proposed. They feel demeaned and degraded when they speak up. Yet those of us here today, we often are the ones who come out with the absolute best solutions. Why is it that so often the first knee-jerk reaction is to severely cut services instead of to work together to find a solution? If the proposed changes are allowed to stand, services will be cut in half or more for people with disabilities. People will have less access to the services and supports desperately needed to allow them to live in the community of their choice. People with disabilities and their families will not have the ability to work and be taxpayers, contributing members to their community and our great state. By proposing to severely cut their services, you also cut off the employment and tax-paying capabilities of their direct care, nursing, and respite staff. These proposed changes will not just compromise the health, safety, independence, and inclusion of people with disabilities. They also greatly and directly impact a multi-million-dollar industry in our state, providing supports and services to people with disabilities. By kicking the proverbial can further down the road, these proposed changes will ensure people throughout our state will be forced into greater poverty and have additional need for resources that were already discussed today: Medicaid for their entire family, CHIPS, TANF, food stamps, WIC, unemployment. The list can go on and on and on. These issues are not Republican or Democrat. They're not conservative, they're not liberal. They're not to just be debated or to be worried about by people with disabilities and those who love them. Our concerns and our issues that we are addressing here today, they're not even just civil rights. They are human rights. They matter because at our core, and what we take pride in, is that in West Virginia, we care about and we care for our own. The current 2015 proposed IDD waiver application is not responsible in regards to the people it serves, nor is it a fiscally responsible decision for West Virginia. The proposed changes bankrupt us morally, and in my opinion do not serve to provide greater sustainability to the IDD waiver program. Today, I propose that as we fiercely advocate for people with developmental disabilities, we here send a loud reminder to West Virginia DHHR, to our legislative members, and Governor Tomlin, who we really are. We must, we're awesome, right? We're awesome. We must comment by email to BMS in regards to the proposed IDD waiver changes. As of today, only 300 people have commented. We must sign the now 6,000 people strong petition protesting these changes. We must barrage our legislative members and Governor Tomlin with our concerns. We must not allow these proposed changes to go unchallenged, uncontested, or unchanged. The only way that we can do this is to join together and share with them our names, our faces, our personal stories. We must remind everyone in our state who we are. People with disabilities live across our state in communities where they are known by their name and valued. People with disabilities across our state seek, obtain, and maintain gainful employment and are assets to their employers. People with disabilities attend schools with their peers in the towns they grew up in. People with disabilities and their families are taxpayers and community volunteers. We give back to our state what is invested in us. People with disabilities in our state have the same hopes and dreams as each of you throughout our state. We worship and pray with you on Sundays. We work side by side with you throughout the week. We shop with you at malls, and we eat with you at restaurants, and we volunteer with you in communities across our state. As we effectively advocate to reject these changes to IDD waiver, I ask you to treat those you come in contact with the same respect in which you wish to be treated. I ask you to be informed, well-spoken in your passion for a positive change. Prove to every single person that you come in contact with that you and your family are not the stereotype that others have painted us to be. I also ask you, be relentless. Be relentless in your drive, refusing to compromise on the health, safety, independence, and inclusion of people with developmental disabilities throughout West Virginia. Choose to become an active participant, a bold voice, ensuring the services and supports IDD waiver provides does not change. It's been said earlier that a society's strength is based upon how they treat their most vulnerable populations. I would remind each of you here today, look around. Remember that by working together as a team in our advocacy, we have become a loud majority. Loud majority. In West Virginia, we must be unwavering and unyielding in our advocacy. Our perceived vulnerability should always be outmatched by our strength in numbers. Our perceived vulnerability is outpaced by our desire to effect meaningful, long-term, positive policy change. When we equip ourselves with knowledge and we advocate effectively for the rights of people with disabilities together, we aren't vulnerable. We, my friends, are a force to be reckoned with. Together, let's send a loud and clear message to Governor Tomlin, to our legislative members, and, of course, to West Virginia DHHR. Do not cut our lifeline.